Ducket Fishing's BD Popper. This bait delivers perfectly balanced surface disturbance that both intrigues and infuriates bass to attack. Available in an aggressive size 80 and a more subtle size 60, these baits are sure to become an important part of your topwater arsenal. Fish Ducket Baits. Check out the BD Poppers by going to ducketfishing.com. Along those lines, you mentioned the danger aspect. Where did the idea of a kill switch come from? Because I think that came out of the Mercury camp. Am I right?
Well, really, it came out of racing. You know, back in the early days of powerboat racing, they were hydros, little stock outboards, and they had a hand throttle. You drove them on your knees with a hand throttle, and when you rejected from the boat, they were spring loaded, and your hand was released from the hand throttle. The engine would not cut off, but it would cut back to neutral, not neutral, but idle, but the prop was still turning. So they, Mercury and OMC, both of whom had factory teams back in those days, when you crashed, you hit the water like a four-way lug wrench and skipped across the water. Well, the engines in the early days did not cut off,
right?
Unless the engine was submerged. And a lot of times they did a 360, landed right side up, and they, could potentially turn around and run over you, cut you up with a prop.
Yeah.
So they came up with a system to short out the electrical system, if you will. And that's probably a bad term, but it was successful in cutting the engine off. And the first kill switch that was engine shutoff switch that came from bass boat manufacturing, Ray Scott called me back in the 70s, and Ray was very safety conscious, and he was asking about foot throttles that we used that had springs on them. When you let your foot off the throttle, the engine came back to an idle. And then engine shutoff switches that we were using as well. It was attached to a landed life jacket. And the guy named Bill Huntley at T&H Marine in Athens, Alabama, developed the first commercial kill switch that I'm aware of. And people like Bill Dance knew Bill Huntley. Bill was a big fisherman, very safety conscious, very innovative. And we started putting them in boats. They were not part of the engine package or the control box. And we put them in as a safety feature. And Ray got where he required them to have an engine shut-off switch in every boat with a lanyard attached to your life vest of every angler, the driver. In the event you're thrown out, so it cut the engine off. So Ray was really responsible for encouraging the engine manufacturers to, Ray Scott, that is, to include them as part of the control box package and wiring harness on every outboard that was made back in the day. And that's sort of how the kill switch or engine shutoff switch evolved.
Well, I know of at least a couple anglers out here in the West that are alive today because they used their kill switch. That's pretty amazing. I'm Keith Neiswanger. This is the Bass 2 Anglers podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to reach us, please send us a direct message on Instagram at Bass Tour Anglers Podcast. Take care. Be safe. We'll talk to you next time.